Talking to this, so I guess we just open it up to the floor and is this another one? You can do a slide on this one.
I do have a presentation.
Yep, that's fine. Yes, that'll be good because it gives more clarity. Yeah. You want to do it on the screen as well?
It might make it easier to see because the handout's fairly small.
When we're on number 9, have we moved forward?
The
easement when we're doing number 9.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Number 9. I did read.
So number 10.
I didn't check the agenda.
Sorry, hey, which one are you on?
Are we on Pinlock?
Up on number 10.
Well, if we're at 9.
Oh, I'm still at 9.
A couple of pages in the handout, you'll find the Owen Park
Oh, sorry.
one. Yeah. When I was putting together my PowerPoint presentation, I didn't check the order of the items in the agenda. So I've got, it is that one, yes, but it's...
Oh, I see. I'll flick through it till we get, okay, yep. Just flick through that, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go back to that one later.
Okay, yep, I did read it.
I had included a lot of photos of the damaged timber, but I understand many of you have already been up there to have a look, so I'll skip through those, but they are in your handouts. And I'll just go straight to the plan, if you like, of an overview of the park showing the areas that are currently in woodlots. So if you refer to that plan, the area outlined in red is Owen Delaney Park, the boundaries of Owen Delaney Park, and within that, outlined in yellow, are existing woodlot areas. And so those are the areas that are the subject of this report today. Many of them have been pretty well trashed by the winds and are going to have to be logged, which is going to leave the park pretty bare. Now on this slide here, it shows what the park would essentially look like once those areas have been logged. Now you'll see the two large woodlot areas in the northwest extent of the park. They're two areas of wilding pines that are on the boundary of the Clay Target Club land, and they're not immediately accessible through the park for logging. Also, they have sustained very little damage because a lot of the wind came from the southeasterly quarter, and those trees were relatively sheltered. So they're still quite stable, so we're not planning on taking those out at this stage. There is another little woodlot here in the middle next to the archery area. That woodlot's still quite young. The trees are not mature at all. If we took them out now, they'd be completely wasted. You know, the years of growth that they've put in would be completely wasted. So we are going to leave those at this stage. They haven't sustained a lot of damage compared with what's around them. And then this lot down here by the velodrome is Tasmanian blackwood. And again, they're relatively unscathed. So at the end of the harvesting period, those 4 blocks will pretty much be the only ones left intact, and all the rest of it will be nuked. So the next question, I guess, then is what do we do with it? Do we put it back into grass? Do we replant it in forestry woodlot? If so, what sort of trees are we going to put in? Will they be short rotation pine, which is what we've had in there, which has been spectacularly unsuccessful? Or will they be a longer rotation tree that wouldn't require harvesting so often and might be a bit more ground stable? Or do we take this opportunity to completely review our management of the areas surrounding the park, maybe keep some of the areas in grass to extend the sporting use of the park, put some other areas into permanent plantings of amenity trees, long-term trees, natives, exotics, or do we do a combination of the whole lot? So that's essentially what we're wanting you to consider today.
Just me, just if I can quickly. We quite honestly, we've got no choice but to remove the trees. So as Alison said, it's about what we do in response to that. In terms of removing the trees, we wouldn't have even put this up to you if it had been just the removal, but it's more about what we do. Just as an addition to that, at the same time as we do the operation for this, which will assuming the approvals given today, will be next week. We also need to take a windrow out at View Road, which is overhanging the road. Again, has had a lot of damage, and again is a health and safety issue, so that would be coming out at the same time.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Dannard?
Thank you, Mr. Worship. My personal view is that I've had a good look around here and obviously been involved with Owen Delaney Park, and I would like to see, obviously the trees have to come out because of health and safety reasons, and it is a huge amount of trees, and I know there is going to be resistance to, the people that love trees and the aesthetics of it. But also I'd like to leave a decision, like the decision today, for me personally, I'd like to make a decision on, yes, we need to take the trees out, get the trees taken out. I would like to have an actual workshop that actually we're out there once we see all the trees out and actually see how deep the gullies are, and then just I think we really need to spend quite a bit of time on this, whether we delegate a working subcommittee for a year to actually go through the different options of what should be planted, what shouldn't be planted, what can be gained, whether we can go over, and there was talk about Doc with the shooting club, just there's so many factors, because this is a huge amount of area there, and there's a lot of gullies in there that are actually quite, you'd be able to make Owen Delaney bigger and, maybe do something else, whether it's cycle tracks or something bigger or better or something like that. So I think it needs a lot of planning.
Okay, I take on board that's where my head was going for a minute, but Mr. Greenie wants to comment.
The only challenge with that, and I agree, it does need a lot of planning, which is why this is the start of that discussion. And there's a lot more work that needs to be done prior to us coming back with vegetation plan or a program. The only issue that we've got is that from a cost perspective, at the time that we go in and harvest the trees, we've got all the machines in there, and our contractor, and we had that peer reviewed by New Zealand forest managers who manage our forests for us as well, have all said to make this economically worthwhile, if you're not going to replant it in fast rotation pine, then you have to go to the next step and do your stump grinding and stuff like that out of that site at the same time. Otherwise, you're going to pay a huge part of the cost of the operation is getting the machines in there and the setup of the site. So if we have to do that twice, e.g. we go and we just cut the trees, leave the stumps, leave it. You've all seen forestry areas when they get felled, leave it like that for a period of time. Then we'll have to pay that same amount of money again to go in and re-clear it.
Yeah, I take on board what you're saying, the business side of it. But do we still have the Owen Delaney subcommittee?
No.
Perhaps it's time it was reformed, because Councillor Heckling was on that, and Councillor Downer, you were the chair in the last training from memory. You guys have got the most, you've done the most work up there, and if these decisions have to be made expediently, I don't know, I think you need to perhaps form another subcommittee, but I'm happy to hear from people around the table. I'll start with Councillor Henderson.
I just want to say, in principle, I agree with Councillor Downer, although taking into account what Gareth's saying about the economies of scale, I'd favour removing the trees in one hit, but I would suggest that while I think it's good long term to have a working group and a plan for the wider use of the park, I fear that removing them may create a bit of a backlash, and I just wonder if a planting plan at least, or something to that effect, could be in place before a workshop is held on the whole use of the area. But in principle, yeah, I support removing them and planting with permanent forest, because it would seem that the excursion into forestry has been pretty unsuccessful.
Am I reading that those did you call them Australian hardwoods or something?
Tasmanian blackwoods.
Sorry, okay. And are you saying that they're bearing up to the test of time? And all, because we seem to get these 1 in 100-year events about every 2 months.
They haven't sustained as much damage as the pines, but they are younger. The comment made by the forestry consultants was that as a timber crop, they don't have a great deal of value, and as an amenity species, they are also not a great deal of value as well. They are standing up to the wind, but that's probably the best you could say of them at this stage.
Because a lot of those trees out there is not just their value to go and make some paper or something, it's the fact that they've protected Owen Delaney Park from the winds and all sorts of things. So I'll just go to Councillor Crate and then I'll come over to you, Councillor Cook.
Your Worship, this is a big decision. I mean, it's one of these intergenerational things, because whatever we decide at the moment is going to affect the whole aesthetics, as Mike said, of the park. Isn't this not a case for a site visit so that we know what we're talking about? I mean, have we got time to do that, Gareth? I mean,
I would say that from a health and safety perspective, I've got Ian here who manages the park, but from a health and safety perspective, we need to get in there immediately, basically, to remove those trees. It's unsafe at the moment, and the assets in there, e.g. the tracks and archery, etc., it's unsafe for people to be there. Even in a light wind at the moment, trees are just falling over because they've been held up. On top of that, there's a real potential that a lot of the value that you've got in the logs, which are lying on the ground, are going to deteriorate if we leave them too long. So the sooner the better, essentially, if you want to realise some of that value. Just going back to some of the discussion before, I guess one of the ways of doing that is if you did form a subcommittee that was able to be a little bit light on its feet and nimble, then once the trees started to be felled, and if we were able to have quick decisions as we go, then that could happen.
What you're saying is you want to go in there straight away and start removing the trees, and then that causes actions cause reactions. That's what life's all about. Are you going to replant? Aren't you going to replant? And if you are, you need to make the decision at the time, because the machinery's there. If you take it all away and come back after a whole lot of hooies, it's just a whole lot more money.
Exactly. So it might be as we go.
I think we all understand that. So
as we go,
it goes
we'll
back
see
to my suggestion of the Owen Delaney subcommittee and giving it some teeth and some powers. But I've got a lot of hands up. So where were they? Oh, I think
Anna was next.
Anna, Councillor Cook.
I was just going to say, following up from what Councillor Downard and Councillor Henderson said, is that the communication with the district around this, if we could be proactive as well, because like you say, trees will come down, everyone's going to say, what are they doing? Just to keep people informed proactively, so we don't really have to react, perhaps, would be good as well. Keep everyone in the loop and just tell them the story as we go.
Cool. Councillor Minsher.
Just to keep on moving on while we're on that, can you just highlight, is there the trails going to parts of that, Alison, from the hooker, just so we can see that, and also the proposal, like Mike might know more than I would, that if we did expand the grounds, where that would be, so we get some idea where we're talking about, because there's grounds expansion?
Well,
Can I just bring the councillors up to speed from last triennium? I've been dealing with Doc and the Taupo Gun Club, and Doc and the Taupo Gun Club have both agreed. The Gun Club essentially want to move. The town has sort of caught up with them, and they're firing off guns and what have you, and there's cycle tracks right around the edge of their shooting ranges and things. So we've been doing a lot of negotiating about if we could find another piece of land for the Gun Club to go and inhabit and rebuild their gun club for skeet shooting. They would give us, Doc would give us that piece of land back, because it's only a piece of land that came from nowhere, got dumped in Doc's laps. They leased it to the gun club, and that's that piece of land. Can you show them the piece of land up there, Alison? Right, that's all the gun club at the moment. Now you see to the left of the red pointer, the cycle trails going down past the river, and there's that trees that Alison was talking about that aren't too badly damaged. Is that shelter belt by that yellow line there?
This is the Otumihiki block.
And all that bit of green up there, those the gun club.
There are cycle trails in this part of the park here. That's where the Rotary ride goes through the park.
And there's the SPCA building that. So that piece of land, what we're saying is we can actually get that back for Owen Delaney Park expansion by moving the gun club.
That's what I'm saying. Where was that projected land we may get in the future?
The gun club is all that bit of greeny shade up there, yeah.
Excuse my shaking hand.
And just the same, asking about Gareth, like talking about de-stumping as well, depending on what we plant. So, for example, top of my head, we go redwoods. We say let's put something there forever that's going to be a beautiful part of the trails. Does that de-stumping process have to happen to do redwoods?
Look to Ian.
Question was, if we went to redwood rather than pine, do we have to pull all the stumps out of the pine trees?
No, we don't.
If it's put back into a forestry crop, then you can plant in between the stumps. But if you're planting trees that have an amenity value and people are going to be, you've got to consider how you're going to manage the ground under the trees. So if you're planting quite close stocking timber trees, then you're not going to have grass under the trees, and you don't have to get in there with machinery. People aren't going to be walking around in there quite so much. You can have stumps. Whereas if you're going to have amenity species where you have a wider spacing between the trees. People are going to be wandering around in between them. You need to be able to get machinery in to mow grass around the trees, and that's where you need to take the stumps out. So if it's going to be going back into a forestry crop, then you could probably leave the stumps in the slash and just plant through them. It won't look pretty, and there'll be nasty weed problems for many years until the trees get up. But you could probably get away with it. But it's where you're going into that permanent planting, where people and machinery are going to need to get between the trees. That's where you need to pull the stumps out and put grass in.